Kuwait hydrocarbon sector is, for me, all about opportunity first and foremost. The opportunity of the reserves, the opportunity of its role as a global energy player. It is certainly challenged in how to articulate and manage that opportunity. But again, for us, we've been working with the Kuwait oil sector for a long time now. In fact, our team has over 100 years of collective experience in advising that sector. They have a tremendous amount of potential. The types of reservoirs, the types of projects, the market location, all presents tremendous potential. Now, to answer your question on the other dimensions, I mean but for us, the main prize is opportunity. If I take the other dimensions, strengths, weaknesses, and threats, on a strength side, clearly there's a subsurface structural strength, which the country is blessed with. That being said, for as good as the geological structure is on the big producing, as difficult the geological structure is on the difficult to produce. So that is where the opportunity turns into potential threat. That is where the weakness can manifest itself most easily, and that is where the necessity of the Kuwait oil sector to effectively identify the issue, identify how it wants to play. Does it want to lead? Does it want to be a close follower? Does it want to be a laggard? And what impact that has on its ability to meet its production targets and meet its not only national but global energy supply role. So that's. There's always the threat or the weakness with the opportunity, and certainly here, and not only in Kuwait but in the Gulf, that certainly manifests itself. One of the very exciting opportunities for the Kuwait oil sector, hydrocarbon sector, is also its presence on the international stage. And it is certainly one of the leaders from a global national oil company perspective in terms of creating that global footprint and manifesting itself on that global stage. You look at three companies in particular within the K companies within the KPC group. Certainly you've got KPI on the downstream side with its presence in Europe, and now its expansion in Asia, Vietnam, China, come Indonesia. You've got KUFPEC, which is on the upstream side, really expanding quite aggressively internationally, looking for new opportunities to develop. But what's most interesting in that model, and here's where the opportunity comes in, is it goes out to participate in international plays with a view to bring expertise and technology back to Kuwait to help that development in tackling the challenge that's here in Kuwait. And that's a very progressive way of thinking and a progressive way of going about finding solutions for this. It's very easy for everyone to say, oh, just partner with an IOC and bring the IOCs into Kuwait. Well, we all know that the challenges are, a lot of people call it resource nationalism, but the challenges of certainly of the governments over the national oil companies, with the perception of giving away access to their natural resources. So that always makes partnering with IOCs a challenge. However, if you partner with them in different dimensions, both internationally and domestically, I think that could certainly provide an up for the Kuwait oil sector.
And possibly also a way of bringing back some key local content when it comes to the Kuwaitization policy.
Absolutely.
People, personnel that have been trained abroad with IOCs.
Absolutely.
Back to the...
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the subject of local content, because that is again, at the same time, a strength that they've identified the need to and really develop local content and have a strategy around that. That's an opportunity, obviously, to further economically diversify and industrialize the country. It is a threat, at the same time, because people are not entirely sure how to go about addressing local content and potentially, well, there's always a fear that it potentially impacts quality. Now, we do a lot of work with the Kuwait oil sector in helping to think about what local content is and how you go about incentivizing properly local content development. And one of the very big challenges, but once this gets right, is how do you work with your suppliers to ensure that quality is always what's being delivered, and not just going about local content and nationalization of workforce, for that matter, in a way of fulfilling quotas. Because quotas will drive inefficiency, quotas will drive suspicion of why people are going about developing local content or further industry. So that is one of the tremendous opportunities. It's, as most of these big opportunities, not easy to execute. And again, the focus and the dialogue that is required between the supplier and the user is absolutely paramount. And that's something that we're seeing, that dialogue, and we're helping that dialogue to occur. I think people are still trying to figure out what's going on right now. I have not seen this recent slide impact anyone's decisions. No one has, to my knowledge, made any very short-term knee-jerk reactions, which I think is the right thing to do. That also partly because, now, if we compare to 5 years ago, if we compare to 15 years ago, there's a much better appreciation within the company of the cost structure of the production of hydrocarbon, for example, or the transformation of the hydrocarbon into a fuel. That helps not to make such knee-jerk reactions. Certainly for me and the key clients that we serve here, there's a solid recognition of their role within the global energy industry. Our clients absolutely take on the challenge of further developing infrastructure, bringing on new mega projects, not only to serve the national economies, but the global energy industry, or the global energy demand. The horizon of all of this is not quarter to quarter. It's decade to decade. And yes, although there may be a dip every now and then in prices, we'll see where this one goes. But I would be very surprised if any of the big infrastructure or asset development projects would come to an end, or be temporarily halted even. Because again, there is that duality in the necessity of, or the importance of what these are serving. They're not only serving the global energy market as they were 15, 20 years ago, which made it quite easy to, or easier to turn things off for a while, but they are of fundamental importance to the national economy and to the further industrialization of those economies. So it's a challenge, but thank God people are a little bit more long-term viewed, at least for the time being right now.
Okay, thank you very much.